So this is the audience. Got to show them the audience. And here we go. Okay. So my name is Andrew Peniston, and I have to give a demonstration speech for my public speaking class. So today I'll be demonstrating for you the violin. So I've been playing the violin for about 3-4 years now up at Northeast Iowa School of Music in Dubuque. To know what the violin is, you have to know first it's named the violin. It's a musical instrument. It's part of the string family, called such because you play it with strings. There's strings both on the actual violin and on the bow of the violin. And to play it, you need to know firstly how to hold it. So the violin, to hold it, there's a nice little nifty chin holder here. Place your chin on it, and it holds it there. It's kind of uncomfortable on the shoulders, so every violin also comes with a little shoulder pad. You take the shoulder pad, you adjust it to the height that it needs to be, attach it to the violin, and then you can place it on your shoulder and just hold it there. And that's how you hold a violin. So now to actually play the violin, you have to use a bow. To use a bow, this is what the bow is. There's a few parts of the bow. This is the frog of the bow. It's called the frog because it is. No one really knows. It adjusts the tightness of the bow string here. So if it's too loose, it's just going to kind of sit on the violin, not move. If it's too tight, it'll bounce right off of it. So you have to get it to kind of a nice little happy medium. And when you actually get a violin for the first time, you take a bow and you try to play it against it, it probably won't make any noise. And that's because the violin, the string that makes it up is horsehair, and to use actual horsehair, you have to use something called rosin. Rosin is very fragile. I already broke mine, and it's from trees like oak and pine. It just comes out of that as the sap and then solidified into a nice solid little amber form. And then you take this, and the string broke. So with this, you never want to pull off. This is kind of good because you never want to really pull off a string. You would want to cut it with scissors, but for sake of time, I don't have scissors. So you take the rosin, put on the bow, you slide it up, down, and you're done. You want to do that usually 3 or 4 times before you actually start playing, but since I'm not going to be actually playing it, I'm not going to rosin it fully yet. So now that you have it rosined, it can actually go up against the strings, and the rosin gives it enough friction to create vibrations in the strings to make a noise. So it plays all the strings. So the strings on a violin go in an order. Each one has its own little name. This right here is the G string. This one here is the D string. Then you have the A string and the E string. So this is remembered by, my teacher taught me this one. There's a lot of ways to remember. It's good dogs always eat. So there you go. Because good dogs do always eat. If they didn't, they wouldn't be a dog. So now you know all the strings. Each string is also tuned. You originally tune them using the little tuners up at the top. These are very fickly. You move them barely half an inch and it moves it about a whole octave. So you don't ever want to touch these. So to actually fine tune, use the little fine tuners at the bottom by the bridge. And then you can twist these around to make it more sharp, more flat, depending on what it is. And this is called the bridge because it's kind of like a bridge. And it holds all the strings into place, holds them up elevated, so each of them can vibrate without, actually like just hitting here and not actually making any noise. So you have the bow now. You have the violin. You can hold the violin. You can't really hold the bow. So to hold the bow, you hold it up like this, and this is usually best to do with a pencil. The thumb, there's a nice little slit right here. You put the thumb in there. You put your middle finger and your ring finger over those. You have to put my teacher called putting the fish in the fishing hole, or the threading the needle kind of thing. Just put your fingers there. The pinky just sort of sits there at the back. It just sort of helps move it around. And then your index finger pushes down and puts weight on the bow to change the dynamics to make it louder or softer or whatever you want it to be. So now that you can hold the bow, you can hold a violin, but you don't really know how to play still. You can play all the open strings, which, good job. But to actually play any of the notes, you have to know what the fingering patterns are. So you figure those out. You take your other hand, your non-dominant. There's a bow's violin. I'm playing a right-handed violin. There are left-handed violins, but they look really weird, and I don't understand how you would use them. But they are possible. So each string follows the same sort of pattern. You have your open strings, which is just, so that's G, and then you have A, and then you would have B, that was B sharp, B, C. So each of them follow this sort of pattern of one, your first finger goes kind of near the top, second finger hits like nice and close to that, like as close as you can really get it, and then the third goes further up. The best way to learn this originally is you put white tapes on these to mark the places, because it's not that easy to constantly be thinking about where to put your fingers and the bow speed, how to hold the bow, the violin, and everything at once. I currently have a single black tape to show my third finger, but second and first finger I generally have down. And all the bows follow the same finger pattern except for the E string. In that case, your first finger is always on F sharp instead of on F. That is it's just kind of like that. I'm not sure. Just how the bow is threaded, and that makes it's easy that way too, because most songs are in the key of G, so you have a nice little F sharp already right here. So you can play the violin now. You got it all down. You can hold the violin, and in no way do I expect you to actually remember that. Everything I just told you is what you learned probably about your first month, if you ever learned how to play the violin. So if you don't actually remember how to hold the bow, that can take some time to actually finger patterns. It all takes time to learn, and that's what the fun about a violin almost is that it's very different from like the piano and the clarinet, because not all the notes are just right there in front of you. You actually have to like sit down, figure out where to put all your fingers, how to move them about, how to move the string at the same time, and it can be pretty confusing and kind of not easy at times, but string instruments are pretty fun in the end. So it's my demonstration on what a violin is, how to play it, and I thank you all for listening.